Bonjour, bonjour, bonjour. I'm your humble French tarot reader slash deck goblin Marine. And today we're going to be talking about spring tarot and oracle decks. I selected 15 decks, mass market decks, indie decks that make me think of spring. As I know a lot of you in the northern hemisphere are starting to approach springtime, and whilst I personally am in the southern hemisphere, I live in a tropical island, so it kind of feels like spring and summer all year long. And so I wanted to share with you a little selection of decks that make me think of spring season, of the renewal of life. There's going to be some nature decks, of course, which make me think of nature awakening and springtime. There's going to be some decks that are giving me this childlike energy of Aries and Gemini, which are very spring-like. There's a bit of everything you're gonna see. And to be honest, today I just wanted to do an easy video. It is Saturday at the time of me filming. I had a busy week. I had a lot of medical appointments. It wasn't a fun week. Just wanted to film today something joyful, something fun, something lively, and so that's what we're going to be doing today. As per usual, all the names of the decks are going to be in the description box. If I have time, I'll put links. And in the description box, you'll also find my Instagram page if you want to hang out. I'm mostly on Instagram and YouTube, as I also have a second channel, the Waves of Your Soul Readings. And this is where I put all of these decks to use, especially the first one I'm going to share with you, as I literally posted 12 spring reading videos, one spring reading for each of the zodiac sign, and in there I'm using one of these spring decks I'm going to share with you today. So if you want to see how these decks read, if you want to get free tarot readings for you, then make sure to go and subscribe to the Waves of Your Soul Readings. Little live catch up before I get into the video. Like I said, go and check out the Waves of Your Soul Readings. There's been plenty of video posted over there recently, lots of pick a pile readings, monthly guidance and stuff. I also wanted to take a moment to thank everyone who checked in with me after there was a big cyclone Garant that arrived on Reunion Island last week. I had a lot of DMs, a lot of emails, a lot of messages, and a lot of kind words from everyone. So I wanted to say thank you so much. We're all good, we're all safe, my family and I. We were very lucky, as a lot of people didn't have it so easy. So very grateful. Other than that, for this channel, I have lots of fun content planned. There's going to be a big birthday haul towards the end of March, because it's my birthday at the end of March. So I love to treat myself, you know. I'm a Taurus moon / Hobbit moon, so my way to get through any life inconvenience or any life celebration is to treat myself. So there'll be a big birthday haul coming up, already receiving some decks for that, so there's gonna be quite epic. I have started filming some collection videos, which are gonna take ages to film and edit, but once they will be ready as well, that's gonna be hours of content for you guys. I also will be filming very soon an updated favorites video, as I had a few comments asking me for an updated video about the books I've read and the decks I've been using recently, so I'm gonna make sure to film that, as I've been reading tons of books and using tons of decks as per usual. So definitely make sure to film that very soon. And I think that's all I had to say. I hope everyone is doing good. I hope you're hanging in there. March is a lot of heavy energies. I don't know if you guys check the planets, but there's a lot of retrogrades, there's a lot of stuff happening, planetary shifts and changes and retrogrades. I think this year it could be chaotic for the collective, so I hope you're all taking good care of yourself, you're all being kind to yourself. And so without further ado, let's get into it. That was my little live catch up. Let me know how you guys are doing in the comments, and let's talk about spring decks. Let's do this. I wore my little bird bracelet in honor of this spring season. I love it so much. I brought it back from South Africa last year, and I'm obsessed. It's one of my favorite pieces of jewelry. Main deck that really kind of inspired this video is, of course, the deck I've been using a ton lately, the Spring Wait Tarot. So this is an indie deck by Tarot Collectible. Tarot Collectible are an indie company based in the UK. They focus on RWS, almost I would say clones, except all of their RWS have a theme. So they have a Halloween RWS, a zombie one, they have a spring one, they have some winter, Christmassy one. If you guys like RWS, then you will definitely find one from them that is fun and that is on a cool theme and that is gorgeous. So this one, as you can see, is a spring weight, and it's the Stars edition. As with a lot of their decks, you can get the normal version, or you can get the one that with these particular like sparkly effect. There's the same price, regular and sparkly effect, and of course, I'm a magpie at heart. I love shiny stuff, so I had to go with the sparkly. Look at that. Ooh, it's so gorgeous. So this is a deck I used for all of my spring reading for each of the zodiac signs on the Waves of Your Soul readings, my other channel, and it was such a joy to use this deck. Doing 12 readings of like 20 to 30 minutes each using one tarot deck, for me, I could easily get bored. And yet for me, using this deck, I didn't get bored at all. It was a joy from my first reading to the last one. I loved using this, all the sparkles, all the colors, and I mean, this is the perfect springtime deck. And like I said, it's not spring at all for me. If anything, it's the end of summer. We are about to enter into autumn, but because I live in Reunion, which is a tropical island, it's pretty much summer all year long. Right now, it is so hot, you guys. It's like 37 degrees. I literally had lost my voice all last week because I had spent a lot of time in hospital and in like medical places. I'm okay, just regular scan exam and stuff that I have to go through due to my chronic health. And they pump the aircon so high in those places that you lose at like 10-15 degrees between going outside to going inside, and I literally got a cold day 2 and lost my voice. If my voice is sounding even more frog-like than usual, I'm so sorry. I literally just recovered it not that long ago. It's very, very hot right now, and so this, even though technically it's spring, for me it's definitely a deck I can see using all year long because it's colorful, it's joyful. Yes, it's an RWS, so I don't have to think about it, but I just love all the details. I love that a lot of the background is pink. Like, look at this gorgeous pink sky. It's making me think of all the sunset that we get here. I love all the bunnies, all the rainbows. Look at this cute doggy. It's so adorable. So I adore tarot collectible decks. I need to do a video about all of my decks from them. Sure to do that at some point this year, as I've had a few comments asking me for that. And yeah, it was such a joy to do the zodiac readings for this one for spring. I didn't get bored using it, which is rare for me. If I tend to use a tarot deck for ages and ages and do a ton of reading with it, eventually I'm gonna want to put it down and pick something else up. But this one didn't give me that feeling, and that's always a great sign. And I don't know if I showed you the back, but they are little bunnies and they're fully reversible. So for people who read with reversal, you will appreciate that. Actually, you know what? I said I was gonna do first tarot and then oracle, but we're gonna mix it up. We're gonna go crazy. We're gonna live life on the wild side, be the chaotic deck goblin that I am, and we're just gonna switch it up because the next deck I want to talk about is actually an oracle deck. It's an indie oracle deck, and it is by Olivia Rose, the Heart's Eye Oracle. This is an indie deck, but you might recognize this artist for having put out a mass market tarot deck with who published her deck. I think it's US Games, but don't quote me on that. The deck is called the Mind's Eye Tarot. I think it's by the same artist, and when I start showing you the art style, you are gonna recognize it straight away. So here are the backs. Like I said, her oracle decks are indie, but if you enjoy this particular art style, she has a tarot deck that is mass market, that was published, I think, 2 years ago now. I don't have it, but I'd love to own it one day. And the whole vibe of this artist is very spring-like because it focuses on fairies and mermaids, and those, especially fairies, for me feels very spring-like. I don't know about you guys, but there's something about the fae world, obviously, with spring being nature awakening, with like trees and flowers starting to bloom. There's something very fae-like about spring. You know, the idea of Rhiannon, for example, as a goddess linked to the fairies. Rhiannon for me is also kind of linked to spring. Eostre, the Germanic goddess of Easter. There's something quite fae-like about her energy, I think, in terms of her egregore. I don't know. For me anyway, with my associations of these particular deities. So I oftentimes associate fairies with spring or summer. And this particular deck, I think, is really giving me that spring vibe. And I like it because it's a very balanced oracle deck. It's not just love and light. As you can see, we have some lighter keywords, some more shadow keywords, and I think it's a good transition from winter to spring, right? Because oftentimes springs can feel like a relief. I remember when I lived in England, I definitely was looking forward to spring. Towards the end of winter, I was like, I have had enough. As soon as the sun started shining on my face, I felt like suddenly I was alive again, you know, like someone was dragging me out of my cave. It was the best feeling ever, and yet it was never like you wake wake up one day and spring is here. It's like it was gradual. Sometimes you thought spring had arrived, and then it was back to raining and being cold for a bit. And so there's this like transitional liminal space that we sometimes associate with autumn, but that we forget can also be related to spring. I think spring, this verge between winter and spring, is a liminal transitional space as well. And this really, for me, embody this very much, this idea of liminal space between winter and spring, the idea of rest and potentially a season of hibernation towards a season of rebirth and of stepping out into the world again. The energy of this text, the egregore of it, the keywords chosen really give me that liminal time. Again, all the flowers, the colors and everything. I think it's great for this season, so I wanted to mention it. A tarot deck that definitely gives me that soft spring, slowly awakening back to life vibe is this particular deck. It's an indie deck by a French artist, Le Tarot de Marseille revisité et illustré by Émilie Dedieu. Emily is one of my favorite French indie artists. I love her decks. They are very affordable for indie decks. She has a lot of oracle decks, and she has this particular tarot deck, which, while it's called a Tarot de Marseille, is actually fully illustrated even in the minors. So it makes this really accessible, I think, for a lot of people. So here are the backs. And why this gives me spring vibe is first the soft color palette. There's something about the almost pastel looking color palette that reminds me of the spring season, right? Something very soft, very gentle, like nature slowly awakening. For me, summer is definitely linked to bright colors. You know, the trees are in full blooms and the flowers are very bright, and there's like people are more often outside wearing bright colors. But spring, it's more gentle. It's like we're slowly coming back to life. Nature is slowly awakening. So there's something more soft and gentle about the colors and the energies. And this really embodies that energy very well due to the color palette, the art style. There's something very sweet and gentle about this deck. For me, it's definitely a hug deck. And as you can see, it's in French, but if you guys are familiar with Tarot de Marseille in any way, you will have seen, I think, often the fact that bâtons are wands, the fact that coupes are cups. So if you have a little bit of knowledge about French, you will be completely fine using this deck out of the box. There isn't a guidebook, but as you can see, it is fully illustrated and I think very, very intuitive and absolutely gorgeous. I love this one. This is one I use a lot for other people. Every time I use a deck for someone, they love it. There's something very like appealing to people. They feel very soothed. I love this Four of Swords so much. It's one of my favorite Four of Swords I've ever seen. There's something, I don't know, very unique about putting acupuncture in the Four of Swords that I think is genius. The Ten of Wands, gorgeous with this like beautiful parasol. We have the Strength card, Two of Pentacles, the idea of like equilibrium and balance, and Ten of Cups. So beautiful. So yeah, this one absolutely gives me that spring energy due to the gentle color palette and the gentle hug-like energy of this deck. This deck seems to be coming in and out of print, and it's only because Emily prints very small quantities. Like, she's an indie artist, so she doesn't have a lot of quantities, but she always ends up putting them back on her shop. So if it's currently not available, you can kind of like often check her website, and she will usually keep posted on the website when the decks are coming back. She also has a lot of oracle decks, which are wonderful, but I think for my non-French speakers, this is the most accessible, because if you're familiar with tarot, you will have no problem reading with this out of the box. Speaking of gentle, I have to talk about this particular oracle deck. It's a mass market oracle deck. I have the French version. In French, it's called Murmures de Guérison, literally Whispers of Healing, by Angela Hartfield and Josephine Wool. This also exists in English mass market. I don't remember the name on top of my head. This definitely was translated from English originally, and any kind of deck by Angela Hartfield is so gentle anyway, I think. But this one that focuses on healing is very much giving that springtime energy. So here are the backs, at least in the French version. I'm not sure about the backs in the English one. I would assume it's the same. In the French version, we have golden edges because, as we've established on my channel before, French people love metallic shining thing. all of our mass market decks come with it. I don't know why. And so a lot of you, I think, will be familiar with this one because the art style by Josephine is so recognizable. I think so beautiful. And this one is particularly dedicated to healing. So there's something really sweet and gentle again. How many times can I say sweet and gentle in a video? Probably a lot. Yeah, something very soft. Almost like a whisper, right? Because it carries its name really well. In French, it's called Whispers of Healing. And this deck really is a whisper. It doesn't shout, it doesn't scream. It's kind of one of those decks that you pull a card, you read the message, and you sit with it, and you enjoy the beauty, you enjoy the art style, you enjoy the messages, but it's soft-spoken. It's a sweet little whisper from your guides. It doesn't shout. It really is like perfect when you want something more gentle, when you want to connect with your body, when you want to connect with, because this is focused on healing, great for doing self-care work, when you want to connect with your guides and look at what you can do to take care of yourself, to take care of your well-being, of your spiritual well-being, of your physical well-being. This is so good for these kinds of like self-care, self-love readings. For me, it make me think of spring because, you know, in spring again, there's this idea of like coming out of hibernation. We are invited to step back into the world, but how can we do that while still taking care of ourselves, right? How can we step back into the world without burning ourselves out straight away? This also gives me a bit of a Taurus energy in the sense of being very grounded in the earth and being very rooted in the earth. And so that, you know, Taurus for me makes me think of spring, obviously, as well. It's really like a treat you give to yourself when you use this deck. This one says negativity. This one says fluidity. I've not used this deck in a while and I miss it. So I'm gonna put it back out. Now looking at it with you guys, I'm like, I miss this deck a lot. I used to pull from this every day to give me a little self-care message, self-love message, and I've not used this for myself in a long time. I've had this deck for years. Looking at it again with you guys, I'm like, wow, I miss this. You know, look at this gorgeous art style. It's so beautiful. So yeah, I wanted to mention this one. I know a lot of you guys are familiar with this, and there's definitely a few decks who are showcasing the collaboration between this artist and this author, but this particular one I think is perfect for springtime because it focuses on healing, and so I thought I would include it in this particular video. Look at this learning, so sweet. The guidebook I forgot to show you guys. In the French version we have about a page and a half for each of the messages. It's straight to the point, but it's always kind and well written. I really love personally Angela's heartfelt decks. Sadly, I believe she passed away, which is such a shame. But her Whispers of the Ocean, for example, is one of my favorite oracle decks that you can get mass market, but it gives me more summer vibes, so that's why I didn't want to include it in this particular video, and I prefer to choose this one. And of course I would love to know if you guys have this, or if you have other decks showcasing Josephine Wall's art style. If you have a few of them, which one is your favorite? This is the only one I have. In the comments if you have them, if you enjoy them, if you think I should check them out. I love to chat with you in the comments. Let's move on to a mass market tarot deck, the Tarot Arc-en-Ciel. This is a low scarabeo deck, and in English I think it's called Tarot at the End of the Rainbow. So I've got the French version. Low scarabeo of course has it in English and in lots of other languages. This is a super awesome fantasy inspired deck that definitely gives me that spring vibe because of, again, the fairies and specifically the leprechauns. There's a lot of different kind of creatures, fairy creatures, fey creatures. We have gnomes and we have sprites, creatures and fantastical creatures. We even have mermaids, but there's a few leprechauns and they make me so happy. And they definitely remind me of springtime, of the idea of like St. Patrick's Day. And also this, again, I told you, for me, fairies feel like spring. I don't know why this is what I associate fairies. This is the season I associate fairies with. Maybe it's because the idea of like nature awakening. And so there's an idea of, again, liminal space. And, you know, so there's this idea of that, of transitional space. With this one gives me a lot of spring vibes. Also in each of the cards you're gonna see there's a rainbow, right? Whether it's on the sword here or whether here it's like the background glass stains. Here, there's always a rainbow. This is called Tower at the End of the Rainbow. And again, rainbows for me give me springtime. I don't know why, don't ask me. This is what I associate it with. And so this is a deck that definitely gives me that vibe. I forgot to say, I edged my copy in green. It did not come like that, but because this is a deck I use a ton, definitely needed to be edged because it was starting to look a little bit rough, right? I adore this deck. This is one of my favorite decks you can get mass market because I love the energy. I love all the different creatures. It also gives me Tolkien vibes. I think a lot of the creatures are giving me Tolkien vibes, a little bit Hobbit, a little bit like trolls, and so I love that, right? It's giving me that nostalgic childhood energy. And, I thought it was perfect for this spring kind of season, and it's not a deck I see a lot of people talk about, which is such a shame because it's such a good reader. For my fantasy lovers, I think a lot of you would enjoy this one. The court cards are especially well done in this deck, like really well thought out, and whilst it's giving rainbow in each of the cards, it's not overly cute. Like, I don't think this deck as being part of my cute decks. Like the Hermit looks quite stern, right, and serious, so it's definitely more of a fantasy deck than it is a cute deck for me. So I think even people who are more into fantasy but not so much into cute things would enjoy this one, right? There's something very Hobbit, Lord of the Rings vibe about this particular troll. Yeah, I really enjoy this one. One of the most underrated mass market decks out there, I think. Court cards are so great, especially the knights. They're all riding a different animal and they're awesome. Like this Knight of Cups on the frog, awesome. This Knight of Wands on the stag, so great. So yeah, I love the Tarot Arc-en-Ciel or the Tarot at the End of the Rainbow, and it's perfect for spring, perfect for all year long for me, but definitely had its place in this particular video. Let's talk about an oracle deck. This one is mass market as well. It's called How to Be a Wildflower Deck, 78 Symbols from Nature to Guide and Inspire You by Katie Daisy. Katie Daisy has put out a couple of decks. This is her first one, I believe, and this is the most spring-like for me. I don't have any of her other decks because they all feel that they give a similar energy, and I didn't feel the need to pick up more than one, but I love this one very much, and I'm really happy that I have it. You don't have a guidebook. The deck comes like this, and the reason why you don't have a guidebook is because on each of the cards, the messages are on the backs. Oops, if I put it right way around, it will be better. Bad YouTuber Marine, bad YouTuber. And then on the backs, you will have either a little quote or a message. So that's why you don't have a guidebook, because there's literally no need, as the message is on the card. I will say that the messages on the backs are nothing groundbreaking. It's like, oftentimes it's nice, it's sweet, like this one says, let your gentleness be evident to all. This one says, bloom my darling. As you can see, nothing groundbreaking. It's sweet, it's nice, but for me, what makes this deck so special is the gorgeous art style. I love the art style so much, and I love to pull a card and leave it on my altar and to think about what this particular symbolism means. And oftentimes the quote will speak to me, even though it's nothing necessarily that I've never heard before. It is still a nice little reminder to pause and give myself a mindfulness moment in the day, and I just really love this art style. I think she's such a talented artist. One I love to use in pick a card reading to help you guys choose a pile, for example. So this is great if you want to like wrap up a reading, if you want to pull a little card for clarifying something, if you want to give yourself a little like time in your day to just give yourself the joy of admiring this beautiful art style and get a little bit of a message at the back. And this is just a deck that I enjoy mostly for the aesthetic of it. I just think the art style is so enchanting, and this particular deck of is so perfect for spring because a lot of the cards depict birds and different flowers, and I think her other one is more nighttime focus, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong, but I feel like it's a little bit darker in imagery, whereas this one definitely feels like very springtime. We have trees, we have insects, we have flowers, and it definitely feels like finally the sun is shining, you can put on your shoes and go for a walk in the meadow and see some beautiful different birds and animals and insects, flowers, and then you get to go home and draw them in your journal. If only I could draw like this. I can't. I'm at a stick figure kind of level of drawing, sadly. But if I could draw like this, my god, my journals would be popping, because look how beautiful that is. I wanted to include it in this particular video. Look at this. I love this one. What does it say? Let's have a look. Get lost in a daydream. Yeah. So gorgeous. So that's the how to be a wildflower deck. Thinking about spring flowers and these kind of like spring colors, I have to talk about the Birds and Flowers Tarot. This is an indie deck. I got mine on Vermillon Collections website. I love their stuff. And so this actually comes in two different versions. Originally, I bought the pocket edition by mistake, so I went back and got the regular version, which I much prefer. And I've put the pocket edition on the side, and I'll probably do a giveaway at some point. I have a few decks I'm excited to share with you guys. So the flower deck is the regular tarot sized, and the bird deck is the pocket edition. Other than the size, it's the same decks, nothing else changes. Here are the backs. And this is a deck I've been loving since the beginning of the year. I've been using it a ton, specifically for myself actually, and I love the energy it has, and I thought it would be perfect for spring because of all the colors. If I do this, you guys are gonna see, look at that, it's so beautiful. So we have some color coding, as you can see. The swords are purple, pentacles are in this kind of like khaki green. We have these almost salmon orange for the wand, and finally we have this dark blue for the cups. And then in terms of the majors, it's all different colors, so when you're doing a spread, it's so vibrant and gorgeous to look at. So for that reason, it's been a deck I've been really enjoying using, and I thought it would be great for this spring selection. On top of that, you're gonna see there's a lot of like flower kind of elements, right? It's kind of like botanical effect for the wands, and so that also gives me spring vibe. Obviously, it's not necessarily a frame, but it's just there to enhance the art style. I think a lot of it is botanicals, flowers, and that gives me springtime for sure. And so what I really appreciate about this deck is the fact that it's not a pip deck, but it's definitely pip adjacent. And sometimes when I'm feeling overwhelmed, I can really appreciate how clean and straight to the point it is, because you can see here with the Nine of Wands, it's not as busy as your stereotypical Nine of Wands. It's not a pip deck in the sense that you don't just have 9 wands, but it's more pared down than a deck that might have more going on, right? That might have like a full scene. So it's, some cards are definitely more pipish than others, and I really appreciate, like here you can see for example with the Three of Wands, I really appreciate that mix. I appreciate the fact that the people have no face, because it feels like you can project yourself in the card, and I really appreciate how clean and simple it is, and yet bright colors, gorgeous colors, which I really love. You know me, I love colors, I'm a maximalist at heart, so even when I'm looking for a pared down deck, I much prefer a pared down deck that's gonna be colorful than one that's gonna be black and white. Even though I have a couple of black and white decks, they don't tend to be my preference. I just live for color. I really like how clean, straight to the point, and easy to read with this one is. It's great when I was, like I was saying you guys, when I'm feeling overwhelmed, because it feels like I can breathe with this one. It feels like I don't have to overthink. I don't have to, get overwhelmed by the amount of details. I can get my message and move on. I think this is a great one that bridges a pip deck with a fully illustrated, specifically RWS inspired deck. This one really feels like it is right in the middle. Like I said, some of the minors are more pipish than others. So if you're someone who wants to dip their toe into the pip pool, but you're scared that to go full pips because you're like, what if I can't read with it? What if I can't make sense? I think this one is the perfect in between, because some of the cards are going to be more pips, like this Two of Cups for example, whereas some of the minors are more fully illustrated, like this Nine of Coins. So this is perfect for people who want to start reading with pips, but they don't want to commit to a full pip deck yet. And look at these colors, it's actually so gorgeous. Look at this Sun card, I love that. Definitely a great deck for people who want to get a deck that's a little bit more pared down, but they still want color. If they want to dip their toe into the pip decks without fully committing to it, if you're looking for a deck that's very clean, that's very straight to the point with beautiful colors, then I think this one is a great option. And like I said, you can get this as pocket size or as a full size, so love that. Let's talk about a mass market tarot deck. That is for me the epitome of spring vibes. It's Tarot de Carrotides by Fournier. This is a Spanish deck originally, I believe, and mass market, very affordable. I paid less than 10 euros for it at the time. It's definitely smaller in size, as you can see. It's not quite pocket, but it's a little bit smaller than your regular tarot size. Fournier decks tend to be a little bit smaller anyway. And look at the backs. Already with the backs, we are full in this like botanical flower vibe, gorgeous. This is a really fun deck because it's kind of like mixing a lot of different eras. It has some pop culture references, has some mythological references. It's a little bit irreverent, it's a little bit rococo, and it has some art inspiration, and it's really cute, fun deck to use. I really enjoy it. For me, it's a deck I like to take out places because it's smaller and because it's mass market, so I'm not afraid to like damage an expensive indie deck, you know. If I take it to the beach or whatever, it's like a deck I know I can whip out, and if it gets damaged, it's not the end of the world. I can easily replace it. I think it's a very quirky deck in some ways. Look at the way that the characters are dressed in this. And it's so interesting the way it mixes different eras. Like we have, for example, some references to Louis XIV in this with like the Sun King. We have some more pagan references here. We have some Joan of Arc, and we have just a lot of different like folklore and lore and mythology and historical vibes that all together make for a really cool, unique interpretation of tarot. And yet, again, a lot of botanicals, a lot of flowers, that for me is of course giving spring, right? If you look at the background, there's always going to be some form of flower, some form of botanical going on here. And so there you go, you have Louis XIV here for the emperor, but he's wearing boxers, which is hilarious. The King of Pentacles is looking camp. I live. We have, for the Nine of Pentacles, some Marie Antoinette vibes. Yeah, it's just really, really gorgeous. There's almost some Art Nouveau, I think, interpretation in this one as well. There's definitely a lot going on in this one. This is absolutely not a RWS clone in any way. I think it definitely goes in its own way. I will say on a lot of the cards, this does its own thing. It has its own inspiration. We have David Bowie for the Magician, which I think is genius. So I really appreciate like the historical elements, the pop culture elements, the fashion sense, and of course the botanical vibes, which make this feel very spring-like. Look at this gorgeous Ace of Wands with all those flowers. That is the epitome of spring for me right there. It's a really cool mass market deck. It's one that I think is very underrated. I don't see a lot of people reading with this deck, and yet I think it's fabulous. I think it's really easy to read with, and I think it's great for beginners as well as people who are looking for something a bit more imaginative and intuitive. Our guidebook is quite simple. I mean, it's just one of those little white books. Fournier does the same as Los Scarabeo. They have it in different languages, and it's very basic. You know, you have just a couple of key phrases here. Nothing to write home about, but I just love the art style so much. So it was perfect for this video. So I'd love to know if you guys have this one, if you enjoy it, what kind of readings you do with it. Let me know in the comments. Let's move on to an indie oracle deck. We are all over the place today. We're doing indie, mass market, tarot, oracle. This is chaotic as fuck. You guys are used to it by now. I am your humble chaotic deck goblin friend, so you'll forgive me if it's all over the place. We're just gonna keep on keeping on. So let's talk about the Faceted Garden Oracle. This is an indie oracle deck by Claire Mack. I have a couple of oracle decks from hers, but I think this one feels the most spring-like because it is very much rooted in specifically the garden, right? Botanicals, gardens, and the idea of using our connection to the natural world to find healing and to find connection and to find community and belonging. So for me, this is a very spring type of deck, although it also definitely could feel like summer. So here are the back, and the sides are in this gorgeous hollow, silver hollow. All of the images and all of the keywords are related to plants, botanicals, nature, connection to nature. Here you can see we have the terrarium. Here we have, well, there you go, spring. I didn't even plan that, but so you're gonna see. Everything is very nature-based in this deck. Of course, it's called the Faceted Garden Oracle. For me, it was perfect for this spring season, but the way that I particularly love using this deck is actually in a very healing way, because for me, my spirituality is very much connected to my link to nature, kind of connection to the idea that I'm part of the great web of life, just like everyone else, that I'm connected not just to other human beings, but also to the spirits around me, to the animals around me, and the plants around me. I walk a more animist path, I guess you could say, spiritually. And so that's also something that's important for me to relate to chronic pain journey. I find a lot of healing connecting with nature and looking at nature cycles and animals' behaviors and plants and ecology and animism. I find a lot of support and wisdom in that to help me navigate with my personal dynamic disability, chronic pain journey, and chronic illness journey. So this is a very healing deck for me. I use it very much in that sense of reminding myself that I'm part of something larger, reminding myself that I'm also part of nature, reconnecting with my body, reconnecting with, like I said, plant spirits and animal spirits around me, reconnecting to nature's cycle and where I fit in this great web of life. So this is a deck I have a particular use for. Like I said, that's quite personal, obviously, my connection with my spirituality and with my body and my journey, like navigating illness. But this is a deck you could use in so many different ways, right? You obviously don't have to use it the way I do. I just think that this is a particularly great one for the spring season because it reminds you of concepts and images and themes that are very much connected to nature. And in springtime, there is something to be said about us remembering, again, we're leaving our hibernation, we're leaving our cave, the world is awakening, and so we are as well. And so just like the world is reawakening and animals are coming out and flowers are blooming, we also as human beings can reconnect to that rebirth energy, we can reconnect to the great web of life, and we can connect to our own inner garden, our own inner landscape. And look, there's even a ram card, which makes me think of Aries, and Aries is in the beginning of spring season, so this is a spring deck through and through for me, absolutely. And I love Claire Mac's art style, I think it's gorgeous. So this is a great one, absolutely, I adore it. It doesn't come with a huge guidebook, just one of those little leaflets, but it is enough, I think, definitely, because you can read this intuitively, you don't need a ton of messages. But if you feel a little bit confused, you still have a couple of sentences here to help you on your readings. So I absolutely adore this one. I really wanted to mention it for this spring season. Let's talk about an indie tarot deck that gives me springtime for, I would say, more of the colors and the energies rather than it's linked to nature. The deck isn't particularly like connected to botanicals or flowers or anything like that, but the colors and the joyfulness of it feels very spring-like to me. The Cardamom Dreams Tarot, it's actually a Kickstarter I backed last year, but I think it's available now for purchase. It's an indie deck, and this is not AI generated, this was all created by an artist. This is a manga / anime kind of inspired deck, which I'm having a real love story with this particular art style in 2025. A lot of the decks I've been acquiring lately are anime inspired or manga inspired, specifically like fantasy, anime, fantasy, manga. I don't know why I'm having a real moment with this art style. I'm living for these kinds of decks. I have a few now, I've ordered a few others, I've backed a couple of Kickstarters recently which are giving this kind of art style. I'm just having a big moment with like anime decks right now. And this one is so joyful, the colors are so bright that it absolutely is giving me that spring-like energy, almost childlike energy, again, very, for me, Aries / Gemini. I think Aries and Gemini are the big kids of the zodiac. We are usually the signs that have kept in touch with our inner children, with our childlike wonder. The little goblins of the zodiac were the silly geese of the zodiac. I think Aries and Gemini were big kids. I know literally all of my Aries friends, all of my Gemini friends, they still love stuff that they loved as kids. They still love watching animes. They still love reading kids' books. They still love playing the video games they played as kids. There's just a side of us that's very playful, and this deck reminds me of that because because it feels very playful and fun and joyful. Like I said, I have a few manga decks, but I think this one has a little bit more joy in it. Some of them that I have are a bit more serious. Like I have one from Los Carabeo, the traditional manga tarot, which feels very autumn actually. Like the color story feels very browns and oranges and very muted, grounded color story. This one definitely feels a lot more bright and spring-like. The energy as well of it feels more bright and lively and fun, and it feels like watching an anime, right? It feels like watching Sailor Moon or Pokemon or Free Run, which is one anime I watched recently, which I loved. I don't know if you guys have watched that, but if you have, let me know in the comments. It's just fun, right? And gorgeous. I love the art style, so I wanted to mention it. It's not a deck I see often, and yet I know for all of my peeps out there who like this kind of art style, I think you'd really enjoy it. There's a lot of details on each card, and it's really well thought out. My favorite card was the High Priestess that we saw, and I also love Judgment. Look, how beautiful is that? Gorgeous. That's the card that made me back the deck, that card and the High Priestess. Let me find it again because it's my favorite card of the deck. Look. Yeah, I saw that card on the Kickstarter at the time and I was like, yep, take my money. So that's the Cardamom Dreams Tarot. Like I said, I'm pretty sure you can get this now. If I find a link for it, I'll make sure to put it down below. I need to keep going because we still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 decks to talk about. Let's get a move on, Marine. Let's talk about a mass market tarot deck. And this is gonna be one that might throw some of you off. You might think, what? Where do you see spring in here? But let me explain, okay? Let's talk about the Dame's Fortune Wheels Tarot. This is a mass market deck by Los Carabeo. This is by Paul Husson. You can get the deck and then you can get a separate guidebook, which is awesome. And you can get the guidebook as a PDF as well, like Kindle book, ebook version, which is really cool. Here are the backs. And so this is my option for you guys who like historical decks, you like classical decks, but you still want to bring a little bit of that spring vibe into your reading. This is perfect. You're gonna see because of the color choices, the color palette. I wanted to show you that you don't have for spring decks to use decks that are cute. You don't have for spring decks to use decks that are necessarily nature-based or flower-based. You can also use historical-looking decks, classical-looking decks, but still have a little bit of spring kind of inspiration there. This one does that particularly well. First, it's because of the color choices. As you're gonna see, the colors are very primary colors. We have a lot of greens, a lot of reds, a lot of yellows, and a lot of blues. And so those colors already are giving me spring, right? If I do like this, I don't know, there's so many greens and yellows that it feels very springtime to me. There's also, again, a lot of like nature, landscape, nature background in this. It's not the main focus of the deck, but it definitely is there, right? So in this Four of Cups, we see this person here. There's a butterfly, there's flowers in the background. It's not the main focus of the deck, but it does give it that, for me anyway, nature, spring kind of vibe, and yet still the main focus is this gorgeous classical art style. This is a hugely underrated deck, you guys. I never see really people read with this, and yet it's so good. What makes this really pop out and interesting, I think, is because this is a hybrid deck. This is a deck that Paul Husson kind of took inspiration from different places. We have inspiration from the Eteia Tarot, so the traditional French tarot, which was the first tarot created for divination and not for card playing, unlike all the other tarot keys and Tarot de Marseille, which originally were used for playing games. The Eteia Tarot was the first tarot that was created with divination in mind. So this is awesome. And so there's definitely Eteia inspiration here. There are Tarot de Marseille inspiration here. And there's also a playing cards inspiration here, specifically in the court cards. You're going to see the court cards. We have like the names of some of the court cards that remind us from playing cards, traditional playing cards. Like Queen of Coins, we have Argine, right? So this is a hybrid. It mixes a lot of different inspiration. The guidebook is really good. It's like Paul Husson invented his own system almost. And so if you're wanting to get a deck that will push you outside your comfort zone, you want something unique that mixes different inspiration, something not boring at all, that's gonna require you to do a little bit of study, that's gonna require you to think about tarot in a different way, maybe think about different inspiration, and can take you into certain rabbit holes, exploring different inspirations. This is it, I think, because super interesting to mix Tarot de Marseille with the Eteia Tarot, with traditional playing cards. There's a lot going on here. And on top of that, I think the art style is gorgeous. I love the colors. And for me, again, the egregore of the deck, the vibe, the colors, energy gives me springtime. So I wanted to mention it because I wanted to give an option of springtime deck for people who don't necessarily like cute, who don't necessarily like nature deck, but who still want something that is giving a little bit of that seasonal energy. Definitely one I enjoy reading with when I want to push myself outside my comfort zone a little bit, and because I personally find the Eteia fascinating, it's one I think is really interesting to study and to read with. It's a great reader actually. It's kind of a sniper, that deck. Talking about a completely different side of spring, there's something about spring that some people associate with romance, right? Sometimes people associate spring with romance and love and romantic relationships and all of that. And so for the romantic side of spring, I have to talk about the Enchanted Romance Tarot by Cherry Enchantress. This is a deck, I don't even know if I've showed it once on my channel, you guys. I've had this for years. I got this on Make Playing Cards, I don't know, before COVID, so 2019, I think. I'm pretty sure it's still available on Make Playing Card, and it's one of those like art inspired deck that is specifically designed for romantic readings. And I don't know if I've ever showed this on my channel, so if I've not, here we are. There you go. We are sharing a secret today, which are not so secrets because I've definitely read with it in pick a card reading and stuff. So here are the back. Like I said, it's a Make Playing Card deck, so for those of you used to it, you'll be familiar with the Make Playing Cards kind of card stock. And this is a deck that reuses classical art style, Raphaelite art style. So you're going to be familiar with a lot of the paintings, although I like that a lot of them are not so common, and because of the name Enchanted Romance, this is very, very focused on love reading. It's giving that a little bit Arthurian legend, a little bit romance, like Victorian romantic vibe, Jane Austen. There's a lot of different inspiration in this, but it does for me make me think of spring. I don't know why. Again, maybe for people who associate spring with romance, there's that vibe to it. This is a really good one for romantic readings actually, and it's a great one for people who missed out on the Victorian romantic. If you've been eyeing and ogling the Victorian romantic and you can't find it, or it's way too expensive, this is definitely cheaper. Obviously it's not the same, art style, and it doesn't have like the cold foiling that the Victorian romantic does. For me, it's a great dupe. If I had to give a dupe option, I think the Enchanted Romance is fantastic for romantic readings. I've used it for self-love readings as well, and it's great. And somehow the Victorian romantic doesn't give me spring vibe, maybe more summer almost, whereas this gives me more spring vibe, again, in terms of the energy and the egregore. I can't quite put my finger on why it makes me think of that season, but it does. And so I wanted to mention it for those of you who are looking for a romance deck, and a deck that feels a little bit like yearning and with languorous stares, and I need to bring it out more actually. So I've not done a romantic reading in ages for you guys, so I'm gonna pick it up and use that, because look at how gorgeous, so beautiful. Yeah, I think they've done a really good job at choosing art style, pre-existing art style that matches the energy of the tarot card. And look at this Nine of Pentacles, so good. Yeah, so that is the Enchanted Romance for a romantic deck, self-love deck, interpersonal relationship deck, love deck. This is gorgeous and definitely giving me that spring energy. Let's talk about a mass market oracle deck, the last oracle deck of the list, and then I'll have two more tarot decks to talk about. This is one of my oldest oracle decks. I don't even know if it's still in print actually. Maybe I should have checked, but we know I'm not very planned and prepared. I think it is, hopefully. I have the French version. It's called Oracle de la Sagesse des Arbres, literally the Oracle of the Wisdom of the Trees by Jane Struther. I'm sure that this existed mass marketing in English at the time, as this is translated from English in France. And yeah, I've had this for years, like 6 years, maybe 5, 6 years. But I've seen this in English mass market, so I'm pretty sure it's still in print. And so, as the name suggests, this is a tree deck, which is actually my only tree oracle deck. I don't have any other tree deck, and that's because this one really does the job for me. It's not really been surpassed in all the times I've had it. So here are the backs, and of course I wanted to mention it because trees make me think of spring, right? Trees awakening, trees starting to bloom again, trees coming alive again. That is very springtime, and so I wanted to mention this one. There might be some reversals because in the guidebook you can read it with a reversal with this one, and there's actually different families. So we have and the different families are categorized by the borders. There's one that's linked to roots, there's one that's linked to leaves. So there's different families, and the different families you're gonna recognize by the different borders. And I'm very particular with tree decks because, like I was telling you guys at the beginning, for those of you who don't know, in Reunion, which is a tropical island next to Madagascar and Mauritius, and it's important in this context because the trees I have around me are very particular to that ecosystem, right? It's a lot of trees that are either endemic to Reunion, as Reunion, a lot of part of Reunion is protected by the UNESCO World Heritage. We have a lot of the part of the island which is full of plants and trees which are only existing on the island, and the rest have been brought by birds and people's traveling on boats and things, bringing trees and stuff like that. And a lot of them are either trees that can be found in South Africa, Madagascar, Australia, like even India. A lot of our ecology around here are trees that are definitely more either tropical or related to the southern hemisphere climate. so for that reason, a lot of the oracle that mention trees don't mention trees that I can find in my garden or that I can find when I go for walks. This one only has a couple of trees that I can find when I go for walks, but it's better than most, right? Because it actually has trees from a lot of places around the world. It doesn't have trees from just the northern hemisphere. That's why it has remained my favorite, and it hasn't been surpassed by another oracle yet, because it's the only tree oracle that I found that had at least a couple of trees that I could relate with. And on top of that, the guidebook is really well written. I really love this oracle deck. I've used it a ton over the years. For each of the cards, you have a keyword, you have the name of the tree, you have a message as if the tree speaks to you, so this is almost like your guidance. Then you have what the tree is about, how it was used by humans, how it behaves, where it lives, where it exists, where it grows, etc. Here you have even more additional, I would say, scientific knowledge, so how high it goes, if you can use the root for something, if you can use the bark for something, where it comes from, etc. And then finally you have two messages upward, and like I was telling you, you can read reversals, and those two are more like divination, fortune telling, whereas this top message is more guidance, empowering message. So this is so good. You can really do a lot with that. It's a deck I really enjoyed using because of the messages, because of the variety of trees, and because it's one of the very few trees decks that I found that don't just focus on things like an oak, right? We have here a banyan, which is actually one of the main trees we have here in Reunion. I know these trees have a strong significance in the Philippines, for example. We also have strong significance for them in Reunion, and they have a strong significance mostly in Madagascar, so that's how that came over to us. So this tree makes me happy because it's a tree I can definitely relate to, whereas a lot of other oracle decks based on trees are focused on the oak and the, I don't know, hazelnut tree. I can't find here. So there's not many cards that I can relate to, but there's a few, like the baobab, for example, is another one we have here. Obviously this one comes from Africa here. It was brought probably either by the slaves that were taken from Africa to come to Reunion at the time, or by birds, but there's definitely a few baobabs on the island, and so it's the kind of trees that, again, I can relate to. I can see when I go for walks, when I go around the island. So I'd love to know if you guys know of other tree oracle that don't just have trees from the northern hemisphere, because I'd love to have more of them. I'd love to know if there's more recommendations. So yeah, if you have any recommendations of oracle decks about trees that don't just focus on, you know, oaks and hazelnuts and things like that, but that also have things like palm trees and trees from other regions, specifically southern hemisphere, tropical regions, then please let me know in the comments. I would love to know your recommendations. Okay, we're gonna wrap it up with my last two decks. We're gonna finish actually with a deck that arrived in my mailbox yesterday, so I haven't been able to really look at it, but it was also the reason why I decided to do this video today, because it was perfect for this video. So it was also the inspiration for me filming on this theme today. So we're gonna keep that for the end. But first I want to talk about the Gentle Tarot, of course. I know this is definitely a deck you could use all year long. I use it all year long. But energy-wise, in terms of the egregore, it is a deck that for me gives me springtime. I don't know why, again, I can't really put my finger on it. Is it because it's very nature-based? Is it because of the color? Is it because of the gentle vibe of it? The fact that it's soft, the fact that it doesn't scream, the fact that it's definitely not a bold deck in the way it reads, but it's more gentle and kind and like a hug deck, but it's very rooted in nature. There's something for me in terms of the energy of the egregore that makes me think of spring when I use this deck. Again, this transitional energy from we're going from hibernation to we're awakening, we're stepping back out into the world, but we're taking care of ourselves, making sure that we are tending to ourselves, making sure that we are taking care of our body. This is the energy it gives me. Again, I think it's perfect for all year long, but for particularly springtime, I think it would be wonderful. It's just such a lovely deck. You know, this was very, very high in my favorite decks of last year in 2024. Actually, it was number 2 in my favorite decks of last year. And trust the hype, you guys. If you have seen this deck, because this is a very hyped up deck, it's a deck that's very popular, and at the time I didn't believe the hype. I was like, this can't be as good as what people say. Oh baby, it is as good as people say. It's even better. The guidebook is so well written. It's powerful, healing, earth medicine. It is decolonizing tarot. It is looking at reconnecting with nature's wisdom. It's gentle, it's kind, it's just wonderful. It's exactly the kind of deck we need in this chaotic, harsh, cruel world that we live in. Or sometimes, every time you turn on the news, you're looking at some other bullshit shenanigans, so much hatred and cruelty out there. Decks like this is what we need right now. This is the kind of medicine we need, right? This gentle medicine, nature medicine, earth wisdom, reconnecting to our own wisdom, to our own body, reconnecting to our souls, connecting to our ancestors, to our elders, decolonizing our view of the world, remembering we're part of the great web of life. This is so important, and the guidebook, like I said, is so good. Just everything about this is wonderful. Everyone deserves a Gentle Tarot in their hands, honestly. This is a gift you can give to yourself, and trust me, you will not regret it. I love this deck so much, particularly for spring, for stepping back out into the world, remembering there's beauty and a joy out there to be had. This is wonderful, so I had to mention it. Very popular, you guys probably know about it by now, but still, just in case you didn't, and I forgot to say, this is the linen edition, but there's a few editions out of the deck now, and we're all eagerly awaiting the matching oracle deck that the Kickstarter was earlier in the year or last year, I can't remember, but it's so excited about that and I can't wait. Okay, let's wrap it up with actually my most recent deck. Like I said, it arrived yesterday in the mailbox, so we're gonna look at it together because I think it's gonna be perfect for springtime, and that is the Children of Ostara Tarot. So this was a Kickstarter I backed last year, I want to say, and it took a while to arrive, not because of the Kickstarter taking long, because actually the Kickstarter was super fast, just because of where I live. Me living in a little island in the middle of the ocean, everything takes ages. So I'm literally probably one of the last person to receive their deck. I actually backed both the Children of the Ostara and the Children of Lisa Tarot, because I originally had the Children of Lisa tarot back in 2019. I had her first deck, and then I was stupid and I got rid of it because at the time I couldn't connect with it, and I didn't even keep it for that long and I regretted it ever since. And so when the Kickstarter for this deck came out and there was a possibility to get both decks, I jumped on the occasion. So Children of Lisa, we'll talk about it in another time. I'll share it with you in a future haul. Today I want to talk about the Children of Ostara though, because Ostara is springtime, right? This is by Alexandra Huntington, and I think a lot of you will have seen this deck already because, like I said, a lot of us backed the Kickstarter and a lot of my fellow tarot tubers shared their deck already on their channel. I saw it going by, but I didn't want to look too much at it because I wanted to be surprised when I received the deck. We're gonna look at it together. So here are the backs. It's the same backs as the Children of Lisa, which I'm so excited to also finally have again because I can't believe I let it go. I'm an idiot, but I think we've all done that, right? I'm sure we all have had that experience of us letting go of a deck quickly because we thought it wasn't for us, and then literally a month later, 2 months later, or a year later, you're like, why the fuck did I do that? I wish I'd never got rid of it. That was me with the Children of Lisa, so I'm so glad I have it again. But this is the Children of Ostara. As you can see, this is all inspired by plants, flowers, botanical inspiration, and I'm in awe of Alexandria's art style. I think she is one of the most talented indie artists that we have the chance to support in these current times. She is so talented, and I'm so excited to finally have my Kickstarter because I've been avoiding looking at people's review video because I wanted to keep the surprise for myself, but it's been hard. Like, I've been tempting, every time I was seeing videos of this deck I was like, oh, maybe I'll watch a little bit, and then I was like, no, Marine, don't, save it to savor it when it comes. And it's finally here, and look at this, lovers. Wow, okay, this is incredible. I'm in awe. Oh my goodness. So I'm not a huge flower girly. Again, my knowledge of flowers is very rooted in the knowledge that of what is around me right now, which is tropical flowers. Like, I'm very good at recognizing tropical flowers. I'm very good at recognizing plants that are endemic and local to Reunion. But if you put me in a meadow or a forest somewhere else, I'm not gonna recognize shit, you guys, because it's not familiar to me. Oh my god, look at this hermit. I can't. So I've been like studying a little bit plants because of me getting into essential oils, so there's definitely some plants I'm more familiar with, like related to the northern hemisphere, but overall I'm much more familiar with tropical flowers, and so I have a feeling that a lot of the flowers depicted here I won't know, and you know what, I don't care because I wanted it for the art style. I'm gonna be honest. Look at this. Oh my goodness. I don't even care if I don't recognize the plant. I'm just in awe of the art style. It's so beautiful. So of course, the guidebook will tell us what it is, right? For the noobs like me who don't know what the plants are, you can see for each of the cards, we have the name of the plant, we have a poem, which was also the case in the Children of Lisa, and I love that. I love that we have poems for each of the cards. I think it's so beautiful and so thoughtful. And then we have messages about what the meaning of the card is, but also what the plant is. So fantastic for people like me who literally have no clue. Also have a meaning about the plant, upright and reverse meaning for the tarot cards, and that's for majors and minors. I'm so impressed with the guidebook and super excited because, again, like I said, I'm not a huge plant person when it comes to plants that are not in my direct environment. I'm so glad that there's help there because I'm gonna need it. But at the same time, could I use this out of the box? Absolutely, because the art style, whilst obviously it's rooted in botanical, it's still a tarot deck that relates. This, I can see the devil. I don't need to understand the plant association to see that this is devil energy. So such a gorgeous, oh my god, I can't, you guys. This is so beautiful. Okay, oh my god, the world card, I can't. I don't want to do the whole deck or we're gonna be here all day, but look at this world card. This is insane, and this fern is giving me very much like the kind of forest we have here, because we have a lot of ferns in Reunion, and so it speaks to my soul right there. Oh, so good. Let's look at some of the minors. I can't. It's so beautiful. It's just very stunning. So the Children of Lisa was more rooted in the animals. And again, I don't know why I got rid of it when I did. I was so dumb and stupid because I love animal decks and I love the art styles. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. I was obviously going through a time where I thought I had to get rid of decks that I didn't use immediately. Whereas now it's absolutely not the case. Like if I don't use a deck immediately, I will still keep it until I bond with it, or until I'm 100% sure I don't want it anymore. But you know, we live and we grow, and I'm sure, like I said, we've all had this experience of getting rid of a deck way too early. So I'm super excited to have my hands on the animal deck again, but I wanted to mention the Ostara one because Ostara is the pagan holiday or celebration of springtime, and so it felt perfect to wrap up this particular video. And look at this Ace of Swords. Oh my god. And this is actually a plant I love. It's one of my favorite plants. At the 1st of May we give it in France to each other for good luck, and I love the smell, and it's so beautiful, and I love it for Ace of Swords. Actually, I think that goes so well with it. Ooh, I'm so excited to you guys. This is such a treat. I'm gonna be studying this deck. Like I said, I've only received it yesterday, so I've not had a chance to really look at it. I had a little look at the guidebook, but I'm gonna be doing a deep study with this deck because I want to read about the plants, I want to learn more, and I want to enjoy this gorgeous art style. So nice. Of course, we'll talk about it in a future haul. I told you there's gonna be an epic haul coming up. I have some Kickstarter that arrived. Oh, I love this. Look at this. Oh, it's so good. So good. Beautiful. I have ordered a shit ton of decks for my birthday because, you know, the world is ending, so we might as well treat ourselves. At least that's my philosophy. And yeah, just gifts also. My friends are sending gifts. I've started to receive a couple, so it's gonna be an epic, juicy haul coming soon. We'll finish on that. Knight of Wands, epic, beautiful. Queen of Wands, she is absolutely stunning. I cannot. And the King of Wands, yeah, gorgeous. Oh, I'm so excited. I am so excited, you guys. So let me know if you back this Kickstarter. You can get this deck, I'm pretty sure, even if you didn't back the Kickstarter, because I'm pretty sure now it's available for purchase. That was actually my last spring deck that I wanted to share with you today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it was fun to have a look at mass market and indie tarot and oracle decks that give that spring energy. If you enjoyed this video and you made it this far, you can leave me a little bird emoji in honor of my little bracelet. It will let me know that you've made it till the end. It would make me super happy. And until my next video, I just hope you guys are taking good care of yourself. Thank you so much for hanging out. I'm sending you so much good vibes, and keep navigating the waves of your soul. Bye!